Graham, I think that Professor Ergas is making some interesting points there. The notion that we're not as old a society as others, and this business about social distancing, we're just such a big country and people are living further apart, even in residential accommodation in the suburbs. So there are a lot of factors in our favour. High levels of vaccination, I think, make it less likely that it's going to overtake us. But the restrictions, the social distancing is important, isn't it?
It's very important. If we can all maintain it, and I don't see why we can't for some time yet, then I think we'll get through this. I'm not a panic merchant on it. I don't think we need to panic. We just need to be sensible. And I think most Australians are sensible. Most of us get that. You get the odd idiot, Alan. You'll always get the odd idiot, won't you? But basically, our population is prepared to sit this one out and do the right thing. And I think we just go with the flow. I think Morrison's got it basically right. A little wobbly at the start, but he's come good. I think the government's going about its business the way it should. So I don't think Australians have got too much to be alarmed about.
No, look, that's a very good point you make about Morrison, because in his press conference yesterday he talked about Australia making, quote, significant progress. He said, for now and the weeks ahead, the lesson is simple. We must continue to do what we're doing. He said there's still quite a journey ahead. The Commonwealth Chief Medical Officer, Professor Brendan Murphy, has warned this. He said, quote, if we in any way lose that rigour that the Australian community has embraced, particularly over Easter, it could come undone. Now, we've seen, he said, what the virus can do on a cruise ship. It can spread to 30, 50, several hundred people very quickly. He said we've got to be maintaining vigilance and all of those practices that we've embraced in recent weeks. But just remember, serious though this is, as I say, over 95% of the cases are mild. We are a bit alarmist saying there's another case. Look, those at risk, and the figures demonstrate this, those at risk in general terms are the elderly. Now, I note that President Donald Trump has rightly taken aim at the World Health Organization, saying the international health body blew its response to the pandemic because of its allegiance to China. Trump wrote on Twitter, the WHO really blew it. For some reason, funded largely by the United States, yet very China-centric, the WHO. He said, we'll be giving that a good look. It's a very valid point, Graham. I mean, Trump said, I rejected their advice on keeping our borders open to China early on. Why did they give us such a faulty recommendation? Graham, there are concerns, aren't there, about the World Health Organization and it being in China's pocket. And I sense that Donald Trump is not finished with his criticism of both the World Health Organization and China.
Well, I hope he isn't, because there needs to be much more criticism of both. The World Health Organization has played an appalling role thus far. They have simply missed the boat. And I don't understand how that's possible. They're bristling with experts, and yet they couldn't get this right. Well, they couldn't get this right because they were determined not to ping China. And let's face it, when you get something like this, the most important thing is to be able to know from whence it came and how it developed. Once you know that, you can start to look for a cure. But the Chinese hid this. The World Health Organization aided and abetted them in doing it, and I think that they deserve to be condemned for that, and I hope the world gets up in arms about it.
That's a very good point, because on February 3, Graham is right, the World Health Organization, there was no need for widespread travel bans to stop the virus's spread. The US nonetheless imposed a ban on travellers from China on February 2, a day after Australia implemented the ban. But Donald Trump is right, Graham's right. This outfit, the WHO, should be seriously looked into. And in relation to China and the coronavirus, isn't this interesting? The world economy is on its knees. Businesses remain closed. Italy, Spain, the UK and America are recording hundreds of deaths every day. What are we to make of the fact that China's main cities, Shanghai and Beijing, were largely unaffected? Shanghai is a city of 30 million people. It had only 337 infections, or so we're told, and 3 deaths. The capital of Beijing, where the government of China is run, barely been touched, or so we're told. Yet here we are 9,000 kilometres away from Wuhan. It's currently in a mass lockdown, or it was. It's been opened up now. Large parts of China unaffected. Graham, strange to say the least.
Well, when you get totalitarian regimes, you get secrecy and you get untruths. And there's no doubt about it, the Chinese government have lied about this from the very start, and they'll continue to do so. they cannot afford the public over there to realise how badly they've handled it. This has been botched, totally and utterly botched from the beginning. And of course, regimes like that, totalitarian regimes, just can't afford that kind of news to get out. And they'll shoot anyone who tries.
Yes, that's right. Well done, Graham. I note the US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has called for every country to share its data on COVID-19, following this scepticism that we've just talked about, that China has concealed its true toll from the rest of the world. But he didn't just single out China by name, but it's a reasonable call. How can we be expected to understand the virus if we aren't accurately tracking it? So there we are.